The more I tried not to overthink, the more I would overthink. So I stopped trying not to do it and I started to seek to understand why I was doing it. When I begin to overthink, I begin to under execute. And sometimes it takes for me to start executing on a thing, just forward movement without having it all figured out. And that calms the overthinking. One of the biggest things that I'm learning in this season is that you cannot overthink and be obedient. One gotta go. 3 signs for me that I'm overthinking. The number one, I start lying to myself. Those little whispers and creepings of the devil become even louder. We are all projecting or assuming is a better word, how the other person may feel or their intentions when we can get that clarity by simply having a conversation. Whether you bust it down to the ground on the first night or whether you wait till marriage, those things should be circumstantial based on those 2 people, and there shouldn't be any outside forces that contribute to that decision. And I think that's why we are further and further apart. And romantic relationships can sometimes be so divisive. Those men and women conversations, and y'all know all of the podcasts dedicated to that and stuff. I think that we are getting further and further away from each other because we are overthinking these situations, based on this standard of rules, based on this standard set by people who came before us, who lived in a completely different world. And so maybe if we stopped overthinking what he's going to think of me if I say this certain thing, what is he going to think of me if I act a certain way, if I call first, if I don't call back, and all of these things, we get to weed out the fluff and get to a genuine connection quicker. This one is for the millennial who overthinks everything. Let's go beneath the scenes. Life can be so complex. The human experience is far more expansive than what we can see, and we spend so much time just trying to figure it out. We put on makeup, nice clothing, and we go out into the world trying to hold it all together. When beneath those seams, we are being ripped apart. Some of the ripping is self-inflicted, some of it is because of the pressure of society, but all of it is limiting. Limiting in our quest to just simply be who we truly are. We're more complex than we give ourselves credit for. We fill our brains with popular sayings like, oh, it ain't that serious, loosen up, or just live a little. But life in itself is a deep, non-surface level experience, and sometimes it can be pretty serious. So often we force ourselves to only exist at the surface, never allowing ourselves to be fully exposed. We let the layers pile up until the pressure becomes too much to bear, and then we rip. Sometimes into shreds, and a lot of the times in silence. Beneath means to go below the surface, and seams are what are supposed to keep us joined together. Because we are taught, no matter what, you just have to keep yourself together. We create this image, never letting people in, never going beneath the seams. I don't know if we ever get the answers we expect from life, but I'm starting to find peace in the process of just figuring it out. Instead of forcing the complexities of this human experience to be hidden, let's peel back the layers and go beneath them. Beneath the Seams, a love letter to millennials who are just trying to figure it out. Beneath the Seams, the podcast, now available on all platforms. Hey y'all, and welcome back to another episode of Beneath the Seams. I'm your host, Kayla Riggins. Thank you so much for being here, coming on back and joining me in another episode as we have conversations that are hard to have. As y'all know, this is the safe seat. This is the scene seat. This is the seat where we peel back the layers. We ditch all of the things that we like to hide behind, and we get real personal, and we have conversations that ultimately make us more transparent, more authentic, more vulnerable, so that we can ultimately live a life that is really aligned with who we are at our core. So thank you guys for being here. Thank you for being in conversation with me. Thank you for trusting me to lead these conversations. And today we back with another one, because as long as we have breath to breathe, something is going to always be going on in life. There's always going to be something to unpack. So today, this has been a long time coming. I talked about how I am a habitual overthinker in many episodes prior. And I remember saying in an episode when I first mentioned it, I was like, I need to do a dedicated episode for overthinking. And since then, a lot of you guys have commented and said, yes, where is the overthinking episode? Please, please, please. And I said, it's coming. It's coming, okay? I will bring it to you, I promise. And I think one of the reasons why it has taken me some time is because I like to make sure that when I am having these conversations, that I'm in a place where I can kind of speak from going through it, but also what I'm learning from it and how I'm making it better, because that's the point of these conversations. So I don't want to necessarily talk about a topic if I feel like I don't have, here's how I'm dealing with it, like that other side of the opinion to add to it. And so when it comes to overthinking, I'm always in here, y'all know, going through with myself, by myself. And so I wanted to make sure that I didn't overthink the topic about overthinking. So we're here. Finally, I have come to a place within my journey of overthinking. So we are going to get into it. We're going to unpack all of the ways that overthinking could be potentially ruining your life. And I want to talk about it from categories. I like in the confidence episode, if your confidence is offending them, that was the title of that episode. I talked from spiritually, mentally, and physically. And you guys really liked that. And I like it too. It's easier for me to really speak to things in a concise way when I'm able to talk about the different categories that they are in your life. And so for overthinking, I want to speak to it from the same way. And so, child, I actually took some notes because I didn't want to overthink this. So I wanted to be really concise. And so for this one, I want to talk about how overthinking is potentially ruining our relationships with God, friends, romantic relationships. We finna talk about the men and yourself, right? How overthinking is potentially ruining the relationship with yourself, with God, your friendships, and romantic relationships. So we're going to dive all up and through those topics. I'm feeling a little refreshed. I just got back from home in New Orleans. I went down for Essence Fest and for 4th of July, and I decided to stay home. So I stayed home for about 2.5 weeks. So I'm just getting back to Atlanta, literally physically just getting back to the safe seat, the scene seat. So I have some new perspectives. I took a little mini sabbatical down in my hometown. So I'm excited to be back here. So listen, let's get into it. So I have been in this space where I'm trying to understand more about myself and more about my relationship with certain aspects, right? A lot of times when we deem something to be a problem or something to have a negative connotation, we go straight into trying to fix it. And overthinking is associated with being negative. No one has ever used overthinking in a good job. You definitely overthought that situation, but girl, I'm so glad you did. Nobody ever says that, right? And so a lot of the times we try to fix these things about ourselves without truly understanding them. I believe that you can't really fix a problem or get better at a thing until you understand the makings of it, understand why it's something that you do, understand why it's a part of your life and the way you express yourself or the way you consume things, right? And so when it came to overthinking, no matter how hard I tried, I just be doing it. I will overthink every little thing. And remember, I be in here by myself. I'm an only child, so that's my experience. That's my upbringing. I bring that up all the time because I think it's important to give more context to how I was raised. And so I spend a lot of time alone anyway. So it is just endless amounts of time to spiral and overthink. And so I used to beat myself up about it. The more I tried not to overthink a situation, the more I did just that. And so I started to find myself trying not to think about it too much. And then I started thinking about it more. The more I tried not to overthink, the more I would overthink. So I stopped trying not to do it and I started to seek to understand why I was doing it. And that helped me so much. Again, in order to fix a problem, I believe you have to really understand what's causing it. Why are you overthinking? Very popular public and internet opinion, the internets. People like to say overthinking is a symptom of not trusting yourself. And while I don't totally agree, I definitely disagree. I think that overthinking has to do more with insecurity. And maybe they are synonymous. Maybe not trusting yourself and being insecure are synonymous. But I think insecurity is more of what resonates with me when I find myself overthinking. And that's why I want to break this down again with those different categories of life. And we're going to begin spiritually because that is the foundation of everything. And so I realized that when I start to overthink, I am underutilizing God. I told y'all a few episodes back, and I can't even remember exactly the context in which it came through, but I go to Change Church, Pastor Darius Daniels, and I'm on his email list. And the title of the title of the email was "Stop Underutilizing God." I'm gonna find the video and I'll link it so that you guys can see. And so in that video, he started to really talk about how when you're underutilizing God and expecting that you are the answer and you think that you can do these things by yourself, it causes you to overthink. And I told y'all for this episode, I took some notes because I didn't want to overthink it, right? So I started to think through like, when I'm feeling conflicted spiritually, that is a version of spiritual warfare for me. And it's usually because I'm lacking clarity around a certain thing. And that's why I'm overthinking it. So these are my notes from the video, and I'm paraphrasing because I want you to watch it for your own context. But what I took away was realizing that when I start to overthink spiritually, it is because I have stopped seeking God's opinion, God's contribution, God's direction in whatever situation that I'm overthinking. And so I realized that when you stop to seek, you lose your satisfaction. When you have the ability to clearly not overthink something and make a decision, it's because you're satisfied with your gut. You're satisfied with your decision. But when you are dissatisfied, you start to overthink. And I realized that in my spiritual journey, it was because I wasn't seeking God in every single thing. And when we talk about the underutilizing piece, I don't know about y'all, but sometimes I be like, I ain't finna bother God with this. Like, God up there checking emails. God got big fish to fry. He is healing people. People are sick. People are dying. People are starving. Like, God's to-do list is busy, okay? His calendar is booked, okay? And sometimes I do think this little problem, like, let me not bother him with this. Hey girl, I know. You like, Kayla, what are you doing interrupting my episode? I know you had your snacks and you was all in it, but hear me out. After this episode is over, I don't want the conversation to end here. So I want to invite you. This is your exclusive invitation to be a part of my community because you are my people. And that's the name of my Patreon community, my people. So over there, you get access to exclusive content. We have monthly virtual dates where we connect and we have these real conversations. We keep the topics going. You get to have Q&A with me. You also get to meet and connect with each other. And pretty soon, some events are going to be happening too. So if this is your type of content, if you like deep conversations, if you want to create meaningful connections that really just help us be more of ourselves and be better to each other so that we can really experience the beauty that is life, I want you over there a part of my people because we see each other, okay? So make sure you click that link, join my Patreon community, and I will see you over there. Listen, don't meet me there, beat me there, okay? All right, go ahead, pick your snack back up, get back to the episode. And that is very much a human thought because God is not human, right? And God is sovereign, which is all powerful. And me thinking, oh, this is too little for God, or this little problem, let me not bother him. That's the relationship that you would have with a friend or a family member. You would say, oh, I'm not going to bother her with this because her plate is already full. But when it comes to God, my God, there is no such thing. And so realizing that there were smaller things in my life that turned into really big overthinking issues because I magnified a very small thing by simply not consulting with God about it because I thought, let me not waste his time with this. And again, this is just my honest sharing of my own personal journey. So don't you good Bible toting Christians get in these comments correcting me. Okay? is my life and my salvation. And I'm also growing, but I'm just being honest that in my spiritual growth, there are some things that I overthink. And in that, I realize that I'm underutilizing God. So now, y'all, it could be the simplest thing. I will say a quick prayer and give it to God and just invite Him to be in relationship with me as I navigate whatever it is that I'm going through. And that has been super helpful for me. So instead of beating myself up about it, I have learned to seek to understand it. And that's across the board. I told y'all I'm very hard on myself. I can be my own worst enemy. I also clap for myself very loudly, very confident. But with that comes an extreme amount of self-inflicted pressure. And so sometimes I beat myself up for the things that I'm beating myself up about. But in this season, I'm learning that instead of overthinking it, seek to understand it. Literally use those keywords and type them in and look up Bible stories about it, look up scriptures about it. In my journey to understanding more about the Bible and having it relate to me, I love a good story. I love a good conversation over a cocktail where a good girlfriend is telling me a story. And so when you think about the way that you like to express yourself and the way you like to experience joy, seek God in those same ways. So because I know I love a good story, I don't go randomly into the Bible, randomly looking at scriptures. So instead of Googling scriptures about overthinking or scriptures about trusting God, I started Googling Bible stories about overthinking, Bible stories about increasing your faith. And that has helped me navigate the Bible better. And it's made it more relatable to how I learn and how I digest information. So that's a little tidbit. I hope that helps you. I encourage you to try it. And overall, one of the biggest things that I'm learning in this season is that you cannot overthink and be obedient. One gotta go. And so if you're going to be obedient to God and His will and His calling on your life, you can't overthink it. And so pray for me. What we used to say in the good old Baptist church, pray for me as I grow within my strength within the Lord. Okay. Pray for me because it is definitely a journey being in this season of submitting to self and truly discovering more layers of who I am, going after everything I want, increasing my faith and believing that these things are possible for me. It requires a great deal of obedience and I cannot have both. So I'm gonna rock out with obedience over overthinking. But if I backslide a little bit, don't judge me. Judge your mama. Don't judge me. Okay. And one more thing about that, I think what I mean further to kind of unpack that a little deeper, you can't be obedient if you're overthinking, meaning the overthinking is a distraction. If I'm going to stay the course and fully submit to God's will and God's calling on my life, I can't overthink it because that just gives me more time to be distracted, to start telling myself lies, which we're going to talk about in a second. And so that's what I mean. It's like if you're going to choose to be on a path of obedience, you have to eliminate the overthinking because it is going to distract you. All right. So that's spiritually. Now that our foundation is set, let's move on to overthinking relationally, right? In your interpersonal relationships. I told y'all a couple of weeks back, my friendships are in shambles. There are a lot of new friends that I am meeting and making. There are a lot of friends who are showing up for me in ways that I couldn't even imagine. Like, I'm so grateful that they have. And then there are some friendships that are rocky and have completely, if I'm being honest, thrown me for a loop. So I'm trying to figure out how to navigate that in this season. And because I am an overthinker, when people don't have conversations and they can't just tell me what it is that they're thinking, I'm left to my own thoughts and I'm going to overthink it. I'm one of those people that when in conflict, it is important for me to talk about it. I actually would prefer to talk about it as soon as it happens, in the middle of it, while it's going on. I have to respect that everybody's not like that. And some people need that cool off period. But I believe that if it is you who requests the cool off period, then once you cool off, I'm expecting you to come to me so we could talk about it. More often than not, that does not happen, and people just kind of don't really confront it. And that's hard for me because I believe in confrontation. I don't like it. I don't go looking for it. But I think that when you are in an intimate, interpersonal relationship with somebody, confrontation is inevitable. And so I like to talk about it because usually after an argument or some type of conflict, there are things that you need clarity on that only the person who you had the conflict with can give you. And if you're not talking to me, I'm left to think what I start to make up, or I'm left to analyze the situation from a probably not so favorable place of you, because I don't have the clarity because we just simply haven't talked about it. I believe that almost everything can be solved with a simple conversation. And I want us to do, as a generation, but also just as a people, I want us to do more talking about things. This is like a tug of war with my mama, and I ain't gonna give her too much publicly because, that's my mama and I gotta keep it cute. But that is a relationship, that is an interpersonal relationship that I would like more conversation to take place in. But she a baby boomer and y'all know how they be, so we just gonna leave that there, okay, for now. Pray for us. Well, pray for me because she be all right. She be over there not talking and fine. I be the one over here like, why won't she talk to me about this stuff? But anyway, so when it comes to my friendships right now, just being honest, that's a lot of, we're long overdue for another friendship episode. I told you guys that after Confessions of a Strong Friend, I want to do like a monthly topic on friendship. So that is coming soon as well. But I think where overthinking could be ruining potentially our interpersonal relationships is that we are all projecting, or assuming is a better word, how the other person may feel or their intentions, when we can get that clarity by simply having a conversation. And so I show up very strong. I have a very strong personality, and there's a layer of confidence that I realize doesn't come automatically with everyone. And so because of that, people revere me and have a certain regard for me that isn't always reflective of how I truly am or how I'm feeling or the experience that I'm having in my heart at the time. It's kind of like when I think people always, when you're going through something, they just figure you're okay, or they think that you're good because of the way you present 80% of the time. But it's that 20% where you're not feeling all the way whole, where you're not your best self, that it's very important for people to see that side of you as a part of the experience of you as well. And because we're not having enough conversations, I think both sides of it, we begin to overthink what the person actually may be feeling or what they may be going through, and we draw our own conclusions. And so within our relationships, it's so funny because I was just having this conversation with a friend, and it was like, we're all desiring so much more community. We're all really desiring to have a sense of belonging, but yet nobody is doing the reaching out. Nobody is making the effort to actually make it happen. And people may have their own reasons as to why, but I like leaning on being vulnerable about insecurities when I explain this part of overthinking. I think we all just want to show up authentically ourselves, be safe, feel seen, without having to overthink how other people are going to perceive us, how people are going to think we meant something. I was having a conversation in my friend group, one of my friend groups recently, and I noticed that we tend to qualify things before we say them. We'll say, this gonna sound crazy, but let me say it. Or we'll say, this gonna sound mean, but let me say it. Or we'll say, here's what I mean by this. And it's like, why can't we just say things, let them mean what they are, without having to qualify them? And the reason for that is because there's a little bit of insecurity associated with us being perceived and received how we know we are in our hearts. And I just wish that collectively we could be a little bit more open, so that way it causes less overthinking about what the person meant or what they may be thinking on their end. And then it also requires less overthinking for me, the person. Like, I don't have to qualify things. I can just show up and authentically say how I feel and know that that is going to be embraced and accepted with love, just how the 80% of me is. And so I think it's that 20% when we're not feeling like our full selves when we're not all the way there. And for me in this season, I might actually be about 70-30. I'm more so 30, not all the way there. I think those are the most vulnerable moments where we really want things to not have to look how they usually do and be able to be accepted for whatever season we're going through. And I know I personally overthink that because I don't know that I've always been seen in that regard. People don't know how to handle me when I'm not operating in that 80%. Because I'm always jovial, energetic. Even my mama will say, "What's wrong with you? You ain't your normal bubbly self." Because I, for the most part, 80% of the time, lead with good energy. I find that when I'm having that 20%, and in this season it's 30, people just don't, it's just like foreign to them. Like they literally don't know how to care for me and how to be there for me. And so relationally, I think if we had more conversation, it would cause less overthinking on both ends about how to navigate those seasons. One of the things I'm also learning relationally, and this is really hard for me because I cannot stand when somebody says to me, "Oh, it ain't that serious." That is one of the most dismissive things you can ever fix your lips and your tongue through your teeth to say to me. "Oh, it ain't that serious." Oh, it just grinds my gears. I'm getting triggered just thinking about it. I cannot stand it. And I think that when people, particularly after there has been conflict, people like for it to be over when it's over, but everybody doesn't heal that way. Everybody doesn't process that way. And I think it's respectful to allow people to continually talk about things as long as they need to feel a positive conclusion from the situation. And so when people hit me with that, I'm like, now you didn't came and caused all this havoc in my life. You didn't started something with me. And now all of a sudden it ain't that serious. I just think we have to do better about the word choice. This is just coming down to words when we're in these interpersonal relationships, these friendships, these mother-daughterships. We just need to do better about literally the words that we choose to use to express ourselves, because sometimes we can be dismissive without even intending to be. And I know I fall victim to that too. I ain't perfect. I mean, 80%. I'm just kidding. Everybody relax. I'm just kidding. I know that I am a part of that as well. But this is where I am trying to be better about it. So bear with me. Again, I don't know everything about everything, but I'm willing to learn out loud. And so these conversations are a real-time reflection of me learning out loud. Okay, so let's move on to dating. Now, I'm going to keep it real with y'all. I don't know how much I'm going to be talking about dating all up and through, because people think they know you and they don't. You really don't know me. I am working on being my highest self, but sometimes the low takes it right onto the flow and I'm reminded of where I can go. Okay. So I don't know just how much, because I don't want it to become a thing, right? Like, I want to be able to share about the experiences that I'm going through, and dating is a part of that. But I got to be careful with what I share, because the past couple of times where I've hinted at or didn't even hint at things that are happening relationally and romantically in my life, I don't like the things y'all had to say. Y'all mean. Y'all negative and y'all mean. I'm just kidding. I'm going to say what I want to say because I don't care. I genuinely do not care what y'all have to say. And I realize that people are going to have they're going to be trolls, right? People aren't going to always have the most positive things to say. So I understand that comes with the experience. And I like to always say, you can disagree with me, but what you cannot do is disrespect me. And some of y'all disrespectful, but the block button works. So there's that. Anyway, dating. So I feel like we are all getting further and further away from desiring partnership and companionship truly, authentically beyond the surface level, because we are overthinking how we are being perceived and the role of who we should be in partnership. And it starts from when we first say hi, when we first meet someone, when we go on our first date. I think one of the biggest problems romantically is that we are applying traditional norms when it comes to relationships to modern circumstances and to modern people. And y'all know all of the rules that we follow, he should pay for the first date. He should pay for the second date. I think it's like you shouldn't pay until like the third date or something. Something people be making up. I don't know. I don't subscribe to any of that. Some of the other popular ones are, who should call who first, or, when is a good time to talk about the status of what y'all are doing. Like just all of these rules. And if you think about it, all of that is rooted in overthinking how you're going to be perceived. I wish we could just peel back the layers and really be who we are so that we can get to those soul connections quicker. I think all of the little dumb rules in the beginning, we give it so much weight. Like, he called me first, so that means something. Okay, but like, girl, life is short. You could call him first too. I am truly of the belief that, yes, I want to be pursued. It is a requirement for me to be pursued, but I'm going to pursue you too. I'm going to express interest. Girl, if you like that man, express your interest. You can text him first. I just don't want to be 87 and, I have a cell phone or whatever we have at that time full of, memories, and they all included me waiting on somebody to make a move on me. I want to be a little bit of a leader, of a leader in my life. And while I understand feminine energy and being submissive and all of those things, I also believe that we should be allowed to be more forward when we are feeling somebody, when there is a connection and when we're interested. I think it's okay to express your interest. Now, I ain't walking up to nobody. I wish I could. It's not because I feel like the man should do that. It's because I just ain't built like that. That's just me, right? But I admire the women who are. I wish I could be one of those girls, but y'all, that ain't me. So I'm just going to stick to I ain't going to go chasing waterfalls. I'm going to stick to the rivers and the lakes that I'm used to. But I don't like all of the rules around how you should experience each other. I don't like the rules around how quickly you should be intimate with somebody. Like, all of those things should be the individual person's business, right? Whether you bust it down to the ground on the first night or whether you wait till marriage. Those things should be circumstantial based on those two people, and there shouldn't be any outside forces that contribute to that decision. And I think that's why we are further and further apart. And romantic relationships can sometimes be so divisive. Those men and women conversations, and y'all know all of the podcasts dedicated to that and stuff. I think that we are getting further and further away from each other because we are overthinking these situations, based on this standard of rules, based on this standard set by people who came before us, who lived in a completely different world. And so maybe if we stopped overthinking what he's going to think of me if I say this certain thing, what is he going to think of me if I act a certain way, if I call first, if I don't call back, and all of these things, we get to weed out the fluff and get to a genuine connection quicker. Is this my person? Do we like each other? Do we like the same things? Are we compatible? If we stop overthinking all of that surface level made up rule stuff, I think we can get closer or further away faster when dating. And so that's just the place that I'm in. I'm trying to make sure that whether I call you back or call you first or whatever it is, that the decision is my own and that I'm not overthinking it based on a set of rules that somebody said I should follow in order to be successful within a romantic relationship or experience. My life, my salvation, that's what I'm doing. You do what's best for you, but I just want to share how I'm experiencing that part of my life differently. So we have talked about overthinking spiritually. We've talked about it relationally, romantically, and in your interpersonal platonic relationships. And so lastly, I want to talk about overthinking and how it is affecting your relationship with self. And I say your because I'm speaking to you, but I'm also sharing obviously from my perspective of how I realized it was affecting my relationship with self. And it's very simple. This one is not, it's going to resonate with you so deeply. Here it goes. Overthinking for me allows me and gives me excuses to under execute. When I am overthinking, I am under executing. And it is for those reasons why I had to get a hold on understanding why my body and my mind and my thoughts were experiencing this thing so that it doesn't cripple me, so that it doesn't keep me stuck. When I begin to overthink, I begin to under execute. And sometimes it takes for me to start executing on a thing, just forward movement without having it all figured out. And that calms the overthinking. And that way I can calm my mind and re-regulate my nervous system so that I can stop overthinking. And so sometimes it's as simple as me telling myself, you need to get up and go do something. You're spiraling, you're overthinking this, girl, go cook dinner, girl. Go call somebody. Like literally execute on something. Girl, go wash the clothes. Okay? Execute on something that you know that you need to be doing to have your mind be at ease. And so that some of that overthinking can start to calm itself down. I think because I am a very ambitious person, we got to talk about that too. That's going to be its own episode. Because ambition can sometimes be a scam, but that's another episode. But because I am a very ambitious person, I'm constantly thinking about making the next best step. But I'm understanding that just like life is not linear, the next best step isn't either. Sometimes you're going to have a misstep, but all steps align according to how you are supposed to ultimately manifest your life and your goals, your visions and your dreams. And so I'm learning that even though I'm sitting here and I'm thinking about it and I'm like, I don't want to make the wrong step, I'm allowing myself to do that because I'm trusting that even a misstep is in alignment with who I'm supposed to be, what I'm supposed to accomplish, and all that I'm supposed to have and experience in this life. And so that comes with a great deal of trust and a great deal of obedience. And so it all connects back to what we started with, which was the spiritual side of making sure that I am not underutilizing God. So that is my relationship with overthinking these days. That is how I am processing, going through the process and working on making sure that overthinking doesn't ruin my life in all of those areas. And I want to share with you 3 revelations. Book of Revelations. Okay, no, we're not going to go there. But I want to share with you 3 things that have really become clear to me in this process. And they are really the 3 signs, because I told you I wanted to, instead of beating myself up for overthinking, I started to seek to understand why it was happening. And so 3 signs for me that I'm overthinking. The number 1, I start lying to myself. Those little whispers and creepings of the devil become even louder. And that's when I'm really now sitting straight up. And I'm like, you're overthinking, because now you're just lying. And lying to yourself can look like self-doubt, negative self-talk, starting to sabotage, and really your mind playing tricks on you about what reality is. And when you start lying to yourself, oh, I'll never be able to make that much money. Oh, this friendship is over forever. Oh, I'm not that smart. Oh, those are lies that you start to tell yourself when you are overthinking a situation. And so getting really clear on that has helped me recognize the signs so that I can catch it before I start to spiral. Okay. The second thing is I start making stuff up. I literally start to make stuff up and I start to question everything. So that's a big sign for me, questioning everything. I'm talking about even things that I know to be true, I start to question. And that's me not being in tune with my gut and not being centered with myself about what's actually happening around me. And so I'm just questioning things because I'm trying to further confuse myself. And that's also spiritual warfare. That's an attack from the devil trying to throw clarity in your game. And so when you, lack of clarity in your game. And so when you start to question every little thing, I'm talking about things that just don't need to be questioned. Like, is the sun going to come out tomorrow? Girl, yes, it has for the last 33 years you've been alive. It's going to come out. And so maybe not that trivial. Obviously, I'm using a literal example to illustrate my point, but I'm talking about questioning things that you know to be true. Like, do I have any friends? Does anybody love me? I have friends and people love me. Like, I know that to be true. But when I'm overthinking, I realized that I started questioning things that are just absurd to question. And so now that's a red flag, and I'm able to catch it before I spiral out of control with those thoughts. And the last thing is very simple. This is where I'm at in my life. And at every step of the way, I'm learning more and more that I can't make it without you. I cannot do any of this without God. And so the last thing is, if you find yourself in a spiral of overthinking, you probably haven't prayed lately, and you probably haven't spent a lot of significant time with God. Speaking for myself again, right? I'm not here to judge you in your journey. But for me, when I find myself in a spiral of like just overthinking everything, I probably haven't intentionally prayed. Like, sure, I said, thank you, God, for waking me up this morning. And I'm not trying to downplay the intentionality of that prayer, but I'm talking about that real prayer time where you are in worship, where you are expressing gratitude, where you're really sitting with God. For me, that looks like doing a devotion, 30 minutes of intentionally having conversation with God. When I start to overthink, I do an audit of when the last time I wrote out my prayers. When is the last time I spoke to God in this way? And usually it's been a few days or weeks since I've done it when I really start to spiral. So intentional prayer time is one thing that is going to be necessary to keep me out of an overthinking spiral. So again, relinquish your control. I can't do it by myself. I ain't trying to no more. I know I've said that before, but it's a journey. Okay. So judge your mama, don't judge me. I ain't going to judge you. We're going to keep it cute as we grow within our strength within the Lord together. Okay. So those are the 3 signs for me that I've learned to notice rather immediately. And there are key indicators that I'm overthinking, and I'm able to course correct immediately once I realize those things. So I encourage you to do the same work with yourself and your own thoughts and have those indicators, established. So that way you're able to get yourself out of the overthinking spiral more quickly, okay? So that you can have better conversations, relationships, and just overall experiences. All right, so now is the part of the pod where we go beneath the comments, and this is where we get to keep the conversation going. I read some of you guys' thoughts, opinions, suggestions from past episodes, and we really get to talk about it, or I just show my gratitude and appreciation for you leaving a comment. So this is where I get to highlight you. I truly am so grateful for the community that I am building. I do not take it for granted. And so I know that these conversations are helping you guys, and I want you to continuously be a part of them. So when we go beneath the comments, that's my way of making sure that I include you, my people, because I always say, if anything I say has ever resonated with you, you my people. Okay, so that's how I make sure I'm including you guys in the conversation. And y'all have been commenting. I have been responding. We've been talking to each other. So I'm very grateful for that. So I want to read a few today. So one of the comments, it comes from Innocence. So Yala. Yeah, I'm always messing up y'all names. I know the first word is innocence, and then it's Soyala. So it's either Soyala. She said, simply put, your channel is saving me. And y'all, I read that and instantly teared up. And as I thought about why I was crying, because I'm like, dang, I know that this is special. I know that this is unique. Like, I'm not the person who's trying to be coy about this experience. Like, I know that this is a damn good podcast. Okay. I know that I pour myself into it, and I know that it is produced well. I know that it is a part of my gifting. So I ain't trying to be humble, right? I know it's good. But she didn't say it was good, y'all. She said it's saving me. And so that hit me at my core because I'm like, dang, God, I know I'm on assignment. I know this is a part of me being obedient and using my gifts. But wow, talk about affirming. Talk about if I needed evidence that what I'm doing has meaning, right? And so I wrote back to her because I had to think about it. I'm like, dang, it's saving you. And I realized, and I wrote back to her, I said, thank you so much for sharing. I'm grateful that, you can find some type of saving grace in this experience. I said, but I want you to know it's saving me too. Doing this is saving me too, because I'm in a space in my life where it has come down to a great resurrection of self. And in a lot of ways, this is therapeutic for me. And so me knowing that I'm helping you, me knowing that it is resonating with you in that way, is helping to save me. But I'm also getting this stuff up out my chest. I'm getting it up off me. And keeping stuff in will literally kill you. And so for those reasons, I just want you to know that it's saving me too. So I don't take that for granted. And thank you so much for being just so open and vulnerable with sharing that. Okay. So I want to read another one. This one comes from Apple Podcasts. Thank you for the people who have left the reviews. We still struggling over there. Okay. Struggling. So if you find it in your heart to contribute to the struggle, please leave a review on Apple Podcasts. It helps in the ratings. Over there, we have 12 ratings on Apple Podcasts. And this is, I believe, episode 12. So if we could double that, can we get to 24, 25 reviews, y'all? That would be helpful. Thank you. The girls are showing up on YouTube. I'm grateful for the YouTube girlies, the ones who want to come and see the visual. I get it. I would want to see the visual too. But over on Apple Podcasts, it helps. All right. So leave a review if you can. And so here's two that I loved. She says, this is Jessica. She says, so glad I found Kayla's show. I love that she called it a show because it is. I've always wanted my own show and I got one. I stumbled upon Kayla's YouTube channel a couple of days ago, and it has given me the motivation to take small steps into bettering areas of my life. I'm going through a challenging and pivotal part of life right now, and I believe God directed me to this channel. And Jessica, yes, that is exactly it. I show up at this seat for those exact reasons. She said, small steps into bettering areas of my life. That's all I want. That's all I want for me. That's all I want for y'all. That's all I want for all of us. So it's very affirming to know that in some way, in some small way, this is helping you. And so thank you for being here, and thank you for leaving such a nice comment. And in regards to you going through a lot, even that is like scary, because like I just shared with y'all, this is very therapeutic for me in this season of my life because I'm going through a lot. And so to know that I'm just reaching my people and able to help us, even though we don't know each other, y'all still my people. And so that's not lost on me. That means a lot. So thank you for sharing. And then another one from Apple Podcasts comes from Double D's. Y'all names be cracking me up. She said, I am not a millennial. However, the video she posted about not wanting to be a mother and believing that a significant other is not promised in this life really resonated with me. Oh, she said, really touched me. And it's something I have been thinking about. I really love her personality and energy, and I'm an only child too. So I really connect with this podcaster's perspective. The fact that she's so vulnerable and open makes me feel like we're on FaceTime or something. Can't wait to see where this podcast goes. So thank you so much. I love that you're not a millennial and you are resonated with it. I always say, guys, this is my love letter to millennials who are just trying to figure it out, but it is not an exclusive millennial only community. And there are people all the time who be like, girl, I'm 55 and I love your podcast. There are people who are like, I'm 23 and I needed to hear that. I recognize that this will go beyond just people who fall within the millennial age bracket. I say that because that's the experience that I speak from, because that's the experience I'm living. But in no regard is this only for those people. So when people comment and say, hey, I'm this age and this resonates with me, thank you guys for that, because it's helpful in me continuing on this journey. And it just lets me know that no matter what generation that you are from, whether you're older or younger, you can be helpful to people. So thank you. And thank you so much about you loving my personality and my energy. Shout out to the only children. Okay. Shout out to you being the only child. We are special. And so thank you for saying that, because like I told y'all, those things about me, I had to really learn to love and embrace because they were not always accepted. And so now I use them and I know for a fact that they are a part of my superpower. And then she says, it feels like we're on FaceTime or something. Oh, I loved that comment so much because I put a lot of energy into producing this and making this feel like a very warm experience. And FaceTime is my love language. If you text me, it might sit there. If you call me, I'll probably answer the phone. If you FaceTime me, I'm definitely answering. If you send me a voice note, I'll get back to you in a timely manner. If you text me, I don't know. It don't hit the same. If you're going to show me you love me, baby, pull up on me on the FaceTime, okay? Come see me. Send me a voice note. And so for her to say that, it's like the energy and intention that I am pouring into this is not lost on y'all. And I just appreciate that. So thank you so much for sharing, okay? Let's see. Do we want to go one more beneath the comments? So this young lady, I'm going to talk about this in a different one, and I'll actually shout her out in that video. But she talked about, it wasn't even on a podcast episode. It was on a different one on my YouTube channel. And she talked about healing through creative expression. And I want to close on that because that is what this experience has been for me. I'm figuring it out, and she helps me put it into words that I am healing myself as I go through a tough time through this outlet and through creative expression. And I think I want to dedicate a whole episode of Beneath the Seams to that, because one thing we know to be true about God, well, a lot of things, but the first thing God told us about himself is that he was creative. In the beginning, he created. That was the first thing he did. And so I think it's so important to be creating on some level, creative expression, whatever that means to you, dancing, singing, twerking, popping, podcasting, drawing, whatever it is, painting. I just think it's important to have some type of creative expression. And so I just wanted to leave that there and wrap that up because we talk a lot about what we're going through in this experience. And I think in a lot of ways, this is hard to do. It's hard to tell all your business, but at the same time, it is healing me because I am telling it in a creative way. So yeah, I'm grateful for that. Before we get out of here, y'all know I love to hear, no matter what's going on in your lives, there's always something positive to be grateful for. There's always a positive outlook to have. And so this is the part of the pod where I like for you to share with me, what are you enjoying the most about life right now? And I will do the same. And right now, I'm enjoying learning about myself and not only learning those things, but being able to implement those things in real time. I'm proud of myself for committing to this seat and to this journey. And one thing about me, if I could like really put it into a sentence, I'm proud of myself for being able to say out loud and to people with what most people aren't willing to even say quietly to themselves. And that is a bold testament of just who I am and who God has cultivated me to be. And I'm enjoying living in that and walking in that and owning that right now, because sometimes those are the parts of yourself that you want to suppress. And I'm grateful for the relationships that I'm cultivating and the people that I'm meeting, the newness in my life. I'm grateful for newness. And I'm grateful that in all of those experiences, people are authentically receptive to the fullness of me. So I feel seen. And I'm grateful for that. I'm enjoying feeling seen right now in life. All right, y'all. That will do it for this episode of Beneath the Seams. Listen, no matter where you are in your journey, no matter how often you overthink, no matter how crazy you think you may be for doing it, no matter where you are, my wish for you, my prayer for you is that you simply find peace in the process of just figuring it out. I'll see you guys next time. Bye.